that we can get caught up in the questions and forget kind of where we are. And there's a great acronym that we use to help remember that there's 4 main steps in a restorative chat. What happened? We want them to tell their story. Affected, who was affected. Repair, how are you going to fix things? And move, how are we going to move forward? And so you'll find that if you can go through these 4 steps, then our students will be able, you'll know the steps to help them move through. So once they've told their story, there's no point going over those questions. Move on to that next section. I will say though that what I've found is that if our students engage in the process, and if I use the script, then I have much more success than when I work off script. But I have to believe in the process, and I have to believe that it's going to work. One of my friends said that sometimes she'll ask the question when students are responding, I'm hearing the words, but I'm not feeling the feel. And what she's referring to is there are sometimes when our students are just what we call going through the motions. And they're going through the motions of a restorative chat, but we don't feel that they're engaged. Now, we have to be careful because we can't always tell from someone's exterior what's happening in the interior. So if I'm saying, look, I'm hearing the words, but I'm not feeling the feels, are we able to keep going, or do we need to revisit this later? Oftentimes they'll give you a heads up, but I never want to make an assumption. And often what I find is going through the process, because we have that accountability step at the end where they have to follow through on what they've done, they are usually quite engaged. Sometimes I find that students don't want to engage in a restorative chat, and that's fine as well. But at that point, they have a choice. And I'll say, well, you've got a choice. You can either jump into the restorative process and be involved, or I'll get to decide what happens. I, or the principal or the assistant principal, or whoever it is in that position of authority that gets to choose. And more often than not, our students will choose to be part of the restorative process because they know it's fair and they know that it works. So let's have a look at those last 2 steps of the restorative process, and we want to make sure that we include these because this is where the rubber hits the road. If we don't include these, then we are just having a nice conversation, and those kinds of things might happen again. So we hand the problem back to them. I'm not going to spend more time on a problem than the person with the problem, and it's their job to clean up their mess. And I'm going to help them if they need help with resources, if they need help with cleaning equipment, if they need help with how to word an apology letter. I am there to help them. Remember, we're walking alongside them. And then my responsibility is that's accountability. I'm going to ask them at the end of the chat, when do you want me to check in to see if this is done? And if it hasn't been done, then I'm going to put some measures in place to make sure that it is. Maybe we need to put some time aside at lunchtime so that you can work on this so that it gets done. They're the kinds of things that we do, but always done with empathy, care, and understanding. So as I said, that accountability and support and handing the problem back are the key ways of ensuring that the restorative process works. One of the things that I've found is that our students don't know how to say sorry. And I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but oftentimes I will have students say, oh, sorry, and the other student will say, oh, that's okay. And I'm like, you're not actually sorry, and it's not okay. So one of the things that I love to do is teach people, not just students, how to apologise and how to receive an apology. And we call that the anatomy of an apology. And it has 3 parts. The first part is regret. They're saying what they're sorry for. They're showing regret. Then responsibility. They take responsibility. Why was it wrong to do that? Or it was unhelpful, or I was wrong, or whatever language works for them. And then super important, restitution. How can I fix it? And that restitution bit we already have involved in that restorative process. For example, I'm sorry for saying those things about you. I was wrong because it was mean and untrue. How can I fix it? So it takes almost as long as a regular apology, but the weight of it is so much greater because it shows the regret for what they did, the responsibility for their actions, and their willingness to fix things. And I have a great poster that I have created that we put up in our classrooms, or if I'm doing emergency teaching or I'm moving around from classroom to classroom, I'll have it laminated in my folder of goodies that I take around, and I pull it out whenever somebody needs it. I have a little restorative folder that I always have with me, which has restorative chat cards, apologies, pencils, and rethink sheets, which I'll share with you in a moment. So I've always got my little toolkit of things. It usually also has some feelings cards in there as well to help students be able to articulate what's going on for them. So that's a great tool to have around. And then, as I said, not just giving an apology, but how do we accept it? So there's 3 R's involved in this as well. So we're going to receive it. We're going to say thanks for that. And then they're going to share their responsibility for it. I felt because it's really important that the person understands what was going on for them. And then the restitution bit, well, you can fix it by. So, for example, thanks for your apology. I felt really betrayed when you lied to me. You can fix it by telling me the truth now. And so these simple steps, and I'll take a class and teach a class of how to actually go through the steps. We'll unpack it, we'll explore it, we'll talk about what's important in an apology, why is an apology important, because it's really important that our students understand what's needed to apologise and how important it is to actually give weight to your words. So we're going to take a moment now to just consider. There's 2 options for you to consider. The first one is, what do you need someone to say when they give you an apology? What do you need someone to say when they give you an apology? So when someone's apologising to you, what words do you need to hear? What's important to you? Or the other question that you might want to ponder are, what are some ways I could teach these concepts to our students? What are some ways I could teach these concepts to our students? And I'm just going to give you a few moments to be able to just ponder, choose a question and think about what's important to you.